Okay. Yes, now we are on direct Facebook on the page of El Albergue del Alma, Quique Torres. And now we are here. Let's see. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Un Invitado con Alma. And I'm really happy to, I'm really happy and excited to be here and to share this conversation with one of the, a friend of mine that Points of View gave me. And so I'm so excited. And this is a gift, I think, from the new Chinese year that they are celebrating today. So happy to everybody there. And welcome, Catherine, Inma, that you are there. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoy this this conversation. So, well, I'm going to introduce Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne, first of all, for coming and share this time with me. And I was doing my research. I'm going to talk about Yvonne, and before jumping to the arena. So Yvonne is a teacher, trainer, educator, curriculum designer, CNN and early years specialist. She said that she has never stood still. She has always questioned. The good and bad experience have helped shape me, she said. I am who I am because of these things. She was trained as an early years teacher and later primary age in the UK. And since then, since she completed the MBA in education and catch play work, certified in early years and sent of teaching English as a second language. And a little bit about her. Yvonne was born in London and now lives in Spain, where she has worked for several years. She has two children, Alexandra, 28, and Horacio, 26. That's so correct, Horacio, right? They live in London now. Yvonne has worked for over 25 years in education, focusing on young learners, English as a second language, and a former head teacher. Apart from her role in school, she has been a teacher trainer since 2012, traveling globally to meet teachers, children, and work on educational projects. During the pandemic, Yvonne continued to reach school, teachers, and students online and design educational curriculums and material. And Yvonne started with Points of View in 2021. So I'm so happy and excited to share this space with you. And thank you to Points of View also, because the magic of that tools, the tool join us. And also one thing that I find that you wrote, your personal philosophy, you say education, skill sharing, and strategy should not be selfishly kept. I hope to pass on whatever knowledge I have and additional, keep learning new things myself. Nothing is set in stone. So thank you, Yvonne, and welcome to this conversation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Quique. And it's just really lovely to be here with you. And the people who are connected in live on Facebook and the people who are with us here. And it's going to be a great conversation. So thank you.
So, well, before jumping to the topic, that it's a very tough topic, but tough and important topic that we are going to talk about resilience. First of all, I want you, if you don't mind, and if you want to share your story. Who is Yvonne?
Oh, well, you gave a very good introduction, but what I'd say is Yvonne is somebody who is still learning about herself, somebody who is building on experiences that I've had and discovering what I am. And as I said to you many times in our conversations, one of the things about in the environment I work with teaching is that to be a good teacher, you have to learn, you have to listen, you have to engage with people. And I think my one of my qualities, my superpowers, is empathy, and also the ability to recognize I do need to move and learn and integrate with people. It's a great job that I've had, more so working with children. I love working with children. But ultimately, I'm a mum. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is resilience. And that went from being, a single person to a married person to a family, back to being a couple when your kids go away. And my husband died and I became a single person again. So it's like a full circle. So it's learning. You never stop learning. So that's me. And I'm very pleased. I've had some great interactions with people and visited places to build on those experiences.
And tell me, Yvonne, what is your turning point in your life that helped you to become
changed everything?
Yeah, the Yvonne that she is right now.
All right. It's the turning point in my life happened when in 2018, I'd say my husband died. And one of the things we all do is we all put a lot of emphasis on what we want to do in the future. You know, when we retire or in 5 years' time or when the kids are grown up. And I was given a very short period of time with my husband's illness, literally 6 months. And this ties in very well with resilience. But it was a turning point. And it's a turning point where you realize that nothing is as you think it is. And also you need to prepare yourself for things that can change very quickly and radically. And as I mentioned before, I went from being a couple to a single person, not through choice. It was taken from me. But what I had to do was learn how to move on with that. It was a turning point, definitely. One that I didn't invite into my life, but one that gave me a gift in a way to carry on and do the things that we intended to do as a couple and enjoy the process with it. So yeah, that was the biggest turning point. But it opened up many doors. And I think one of the things is when my husband was dying was that he said, go and enjoy your life. Don't stand still.
Wow.
So what a gift to give me. Yes, what a gift to pass on. Yeah.
That's a huge gift, but a huge moment also, because I think and a very important learning just to say that, and in a way that probably you didn't catch the meaning in that moment.
No, you don't. And also knowing that we had a limited time was the time to have great conversations and say what you had to say and ask what you had to ask. And it gave us a lot of clarity. And you may not get those opportunities again, you know, and we kind of like, we were able to have really, really good conversations. But they came, you know, at a cost when you know somebody is dying and they have a limited time. But also it was my husband able to say that you have a life, you're young yourself, and try and do everything that you want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's all memories, and you want to have great memories. You want to be able to have great memories that sustain you when you get to that part of your life. So yeah, it was a huge turning point, right, in many ways.
And tell me, what for you, how can you define resilience?
Now resilience is like a big word for many people. When you think about resilience, what do we think of? It's something that we attribute to survivors who have been through a really difficult time and have got through it successfully. We also think resilience is something that we attribute to an athlete who is pushing themselves mentally and physically to achieve what they want to get. And I think if we look at resilience globally, we can say eco-resilience, where we think of the world that goes through a trauma and then it kind of recovers in a way, but not the same. We say it's resilient. What struck me was about how we all went through a similar period of time, virtually overnight with the pandemic. We had to learn to adapt. We had to change. We became resilient, but at the time of doing it, we didn't know the experience and back that you recognize, how did I get through that? How did I manage? And at the time when we're going through trauma or stress, it can be mega stress and trauma, such as financial crisis, to do with work, or it can be on a micro level where we are dealing with small things each day, but they're heavy. That we understand that we are using other words, not resilience. We're using words like control and coping, connectivity, character, and also confidence to get us through that moment. And it's only when you get through it and look back, you say, well, that's resilience. So resilience is also about bouncing back, that you're going through all the worst things and you're not knocked down. And it's funny, when you're going through a really bad time, your friends around you kind of know that you are building up your resistance and trying to help you. But that's probably because they've been through something as well. Being strong-minded or single-minded, I think that's more of a characteristic. But I think resilience is something that we grow, we learn. But what I realize is that, having been what I went through, is that we need to take care of ourselves mentally and physically. Because when you've gone through something like a traumatic time, that bouncing back can take time, and it can also affect you an awful lot. So resilience is a superpower. We have our superpowers, which are named, control and all of that. But I also think it's something we build on and develop, and we become stronger.
But I think, well, I don't know, it's something that you say everybody has it, but it's complicated. I don't know, everybody knows that they has it. How can people recognize they have the resilience, or how we can help them to recognize them? And another question is, once they recognize it, or once they know they have it, or we know that we have it, what's the best way to cultivate it?
I think, as I mentioned, we only recognize the resilience we have once we look back. We have to look back, because when we're in that tunnel of dealing with it, we don't name it. And I look back and realized that there was a time I never knew I was so strong mentally and physically. I never knew I had that. And now I have cultivated it, because having been through it, I recognized all the physical and mental aspects I went through, and I've built on those. But then you have to identify what that superpower was, or what got you through at that period of time. I did it because I knew I couldn't fall apart for my children. I knew I had to sustain myself in order to keep going for them, and also for my husband. However, I was very lucky to have some very good friends who were my support system. They were able to help me. So cultivating it means you have to recognize it.
And tell me, Yvonne, when did you recognize it? Because it's not easy, right? I think it's not easy in a way that when you are probably suffering and you are in a tough time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, that episode to do with my husband, I didn't recognize it till a long time after, because I had aspects of grief, and that was also overshadowing things. But then when I look at resilience to do with work, it's that ability to say, right, I'm going to go in and sort that out. Yesterday was a terrible day. So many things went wrong. I had to keep it together. I had to keep myself personally together. I had to bounce back because people are depending on me. It's recognizing that. But I think that we all have our own ways of coping. And that's something I've learned with age, that I may think, well, why can't you deal with that? I can deal with it. We're all not equipped in the same way to deal with things that are experiences that are going on around us. And that is not a fault. That is not somebody being fragile. It's just we have different ways of coping. And that's why understanding your mental health is really important. And one of the strategies that goes along with resilience, you have to be mentally healthy to deal when things go wrong and build on that.
Wow, and you are going to give us an important thing, a way to cultivate it in a few moments. That we are, but talking about grief, I think that when we have a tough time, we have to spend the times of the grief. As Elizabeth Kubler, this lady that she's one of the experts of grief. I mean, you are not suffering something and you say, okay, I have the resilience right now and I'm okay. And just you have to go through step by step, right?
Yeah, and looking back, it's a type of resilience because grief, it never leaves you. You carry it, you internalize it. But one thing you do is you become better at hiding it because of other people. Because you don't want them to have to feel what you're carrying around. So it becomes part of you, and you can't explain this sometimes until you've actually been through it. To walk away from someone is one thing, but to have them taken away from you is another thing. But the one thing I've recognized is that person is always with you with the memories that you have created, and these sustain you. They get you through the worst times. They get you through the happiest times. And it's something you can share with other people who know that person, that you can talk about the funny moments. You can talk about the worst moments. You can talk about their characteristics. But memories are the things that sustain you. The heaviness of grief never really goes, but you become better at managing it. But I can't tell you that it be 1 year or 10 years because we're all different. And I can't tell you that people don't have their moments where it is totally overwhelming, because it comes, it happens.
Right. And now I remember, well, I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I love everything about vulnerability. And it reminds me that you have to be vulnerable in order to jump and express what you are feeling, ask for help. And it's a tough thing also, because what you say, probably a lot of people, they try to hide the software and everything. I think that's also a process, right?
Yeah. And I do think what I do notice is that you're looking at resilient. I recognize that as I mentioned, kept it together for my children. And now I recognize how resilient they were in their way. You know, they were 20, 21 and 24, and very difficult for them. But they have now become incredibly, I look back and think how resilient they were to get through that. But yeah, it's you have to, the vulnerability allows you to recognize so many things, Kike. You have to be vulnerable as well and accept that.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a talk that we have a few days ago, you say something about also resilience is going to our roots.
Yes, it is going to our roots. I mentioned about that, about how it goes to the very root of us, of what we can be and what we can become. And again, this is not something I recognized as a younger woman, but as an older woman, I recognize now that we often, as we get older, go back to our roots. We go back to what we wanted to do. And I remember being in a training with Efrat Shani when she was saying that she always wanted to sing and she always wanted to paint, and that was like 25 years ago, and she's gone back to that. But it's also like when you take your shoes off, you go on the grass, and you're feeling the grass. You're becoming in contact with what you want and who you are, and that's what it feels like for me right now. You're going back to your roots. And that is being what we talk a lot about, being authentic, finding the authentic you.
Yeah, I'm talking about authenticity, and now I'm going to tell, what do you think, how companies or how the organization can, or they must implement the culture of resilience? Do you think they are already doing it or not? And what's the future for them?
I think that resilience is one of those things where that's why they have team building activities and days of like things we do with the coaching. But if you are resilient, as I've mentioned now about how you discover your coping skills to bounce back, meaning that if something's going to knock you over, you can get back up again and go on that straight line. And these are valuable people. As I said, not everybody has the same level at the same time. And could you imagine being at work where everyone is at that level where they've got the resilience? It would be impossible. But what it is good is that people are developing their own skill set to deal with rejection and stress and crisis. And their coping skills become better, and they become valuable members of a team, valuable members within a workforce. But then recognizing, how did I get through that? It's important that that is shared, that these strategies and skills that become life skills are shared with other people so that they may explore how these work for them when they come to the difficult part. I mean, we know that having good mental health and physical health helps with anything that involves trauma or stress, but not a lot of people would accept that readily. So it's a combination of understanding what skill sets can be achieved, how to achieve them, and giving people the opportunity to do so in a safe environment as well within workplaces.
And I think now about the pandemic, we require a lot of resilience because everything changed, and a lot of people, they still working at home, and they are start coming back to the companies or to the office, but people are not sure they want to go, how they are going to be treated, how it's going to be the new normal or the new situation.
Yeah.
How can we work on that, or how companies can work on that, or how can we cultivate this in order to go in a, like you say, in a safe place, or feeling like we are in a safe part?
Well, this is an interesting thing because for many companies that remain online because of the pandemic, I've noticed, for example, in my daughter's working environment, they make sure that they touch base with their team several times a day, to have a virtual coffee or talk about things. And I think whereas before we really are missing that social interaction that is human, that is part of our humanity, to talk and touch and laugh, criticize, or be sad or be happy. And I do think that the resilience, we don't know yet how to harness the resilience that we have achieved through the pandemic, because we're still like a little ball going up and down, and we still haven't yet investigated how to harness that characteristic, that resilience that people have had from the pandemic. That's what I think. It's still in flow. It's still developing. Maybe we see how in my environment, I see how children have just gone straight back into school. It doesn't matter. They're not thinking about it. Is that because they haven't had the skill set yet or life experience to realize it was a negative time? They've just gone on with it. But for many people, the pandemic was the toughest of times. And I don't think we've worked it out yet.
Wow. Well, I will ask you about that you can give us a strategy, but I'm going to link it with the workshop that you are going to facilitate next Saturday, because I think it's a perfect practice to cultivate or to start cultivating the resilience, because as you mentioned, and as I know, resilience is also working with us. I mean, be in the present moment, enjoy the moments, to cultivate and to be in a good health, in a good mental health. So talk about or tell us about this workshop that it's the Shirin Yuku. It's the forest bathing therapy. Tell us how we can relate this with the resilience, of how we can practice that.
Yeah, I mean, the Shinrin Yuko, or forest bathing, is a great way to unburden yourself in many ways and also look for invitations in another way. It's all about the path, following the path. And also we can relate the path to our everyday life or our journey through life. And with Shinrin Yuko, what I do is look at the path and how, in what condition is this path, meaning you. The pathway will have broken parts that need repairing. Are you going to go back to that? But it's also about your observations within that journey. I was drawn to Shinrin Yuko because of its health aspects, because the essences from the forest work very well with our natural healing system. And also is understanding the parts that got broken along the way, just like a path, and how resilient we have become walking along that path within the forest journey. I mean, I won't go on about it too much, but it's evoking all the senses. You're immersing yourself within what nature has to offer you. But also it's an opportunity to reflect using nature, just like the cards from points of view, in what you see and what you hear and what you smell and what you touch. And it's a very visual process. Now, doing it online is completely different. But what we will be doing is on this journey is with our emotional backpack is looking at what do we want to leave behind and what are we looking forward to. And in that comes resilience, because in a face-to-face situation, we'd probably have a 20-kilo backpack on in session or what, and we'd be unloading it as we go along. And the resilience from that is acknowledging the experiences you've had and how you've got through them.
Wow. And so tell us, it's this Saturday at what time, and how can we register? Or
right, it's at 12 o'clock, Central European time, and I can. Well, I'm on Facebook and everything. I can give people the details. But what it is using are the coaching tools from Flow as well. But the Shinrin Yoku is a lovely idea. It's a very visual, and it's a virtual walk online. Wow. As I said, this is going to be a different experience altogether. So I'm hoping people will enjoy it.
Yes, I think that we are going to, and in order to cultivate it, we need this kind of process and everything.
Well, it's something that you can do online, but you're taking away elements of it for you to do in reality. You don't need me to be by your side to do it in a real forest. You're going to take the elements, the basic elements of Shinrin Yoku, and be able to practice that.
Wow.
So that's another benefit, yes.
Well, but I'm sure you are going to do it very well, and you are going to take us a very good journey and a very deep journey, and it will be amazing. Just a question about what do you learn from resilience?
I was a stronger person than I ever thought I was. And the one thing I always enjoyed was being a couple, you know, and I had someone to listen to what I had to say or make decisions, or so it was a collaboration. And suddenly I had to start making major decisions in my life, and I didn't know whether they were the right ones or the wrong ones. And what I learned about resilience is one, it's something you build on, because I look back at that time and I say, if I could have done it then, I can do it now. If I got through that, this I can get through. So that's something I've learned, is I have a touchstone, I have something that I can say, this is nothing compared to what I had to go through. So why am I getting that stress? Why am I getting? And that's what I mean about building on your experiences. I went through the worst I've ever been through in my life. I can easily say that. So now I've built on my skill set for resilience and recognize that, yeah, that is going to be a very bad and tough situation. But what do I need to do now? I need to know that I can't get stressed. I have to look after myself to deal with that. So yeah,
So resilience,
it was a huge learning curve in many ways.
yeah, I think resilience led us to go to our skills or to that element that they can help us to go through a tough time. And that's why we call it the superpower, I think.
Because... Yeah, and I like to call it the superpower because I think if you know, everybody has their level of what they can look back and say, I was resilient then. I'm a resilient person. But the superpower is being able to say, well, I don't have to call it resilience. I can call it coping. I can call it bouncing back. I can call it being confident. I can call it being part of my character now. You know, but the one thing is, I think we all have different levels. There's no one level. The level we have goes up and down, and thank God, otherwise it would be boring if we all had at one level for everything. But I think also you hear people who have had horrendous experience, or people who are dealing with things on a daily basis, and you wonder how they do it, and it is resilience.
Wow, that's amazing. Now I'm feeling like I'm a superhero with that superpower, and just to cultivate just continue cultivating, because life, I say that life is like we have to learn dancing on the life, because sometimes we have a very good dance, very good song, but sometimes there are tough songs, like very, very tough situation.
But it's the human capacity to look forward. I know we look back, and hindsight is an amazing thing where we can say, I wish I could have changed things. We can't.
Right.
But what we can do is make sure that in the future we're in a better way to deal with it. And that is one of the things that resilience has taught me, about being better prepared in many ways.
Wow, Yvonne, it's amazing. Well, we're going to pass to the next section, and I'm going to ask you some questions, and once you have to fill it out, fill in the blank, and then there are open answers. So the first one is, connection with soul is?
Connection with soul is, I think, understanding who I am. That's my connection with the soul. I have a big thing about souls because I believe they last a lot longer than us physically. So I think they are the essences of us. The essence of me will be my soul.
Wow, that's good. Very good. Okay, in a confident moment, or when you are just in a confident moment, how it tasted for you, the confidence?
How did it feel being confident at that moment?
Or how it tastes?
How it tastes, I like that. It tastes great to be able to be confident but equally, it's one I want to learn from as well, because I think confidence can be variable in the situation that you're in. So again, that probably has a bit of a connection to what we're talking about, a superpower. So yeah, it's very empowering. Confidence is very empowering.
Yeah, but it's really tough when you don't have confidence in yourself.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about that.
We have confidence in yourself. However, what I would say is when I look back at myself, person now I am very confident, hugely confident, but I've become confident because of the interactions and the things I've done, the situations that have put me in that, having to do things I never thought I'd have to do. A teacher doesn't turn up and I'm doing a class on something I don't really know, or when you're training and everything stops, nothing works and you end up like a performer. And you grow with confidence, and the confidence comes with the experience of things that you're doing, the interactions. So that's why, if everything else failed right now, we could sing a song and not worry about it. That's confidence, because You've been there and you've done it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we continue. Tell me your favorite movie.
Well, I've got three. One of my favorite film, I have to say, is it's from the book The Lord of the Rings, and and that is also my favorite book. And people who know me will know that this is something that's echoed down to my children, because it's a great story. It's about two no-hopers, Sam and Frodo, getting something really important done. And I love the passage and I love the journey, that these people who are not designed or not equipped to deal with war and everything, they do it. It's a great fantasy story. So that's one of my favorite films, which I've seen too many times to mention.
So you like fantasy?
Not really. I just love that story. Just love that story, and the messages in it are lovely.
Great. Tell us your favorite food.
Oh gosh, I do like. Well, I am a vegan, so I do like anything that involves. My friend who's probably listening to this is a great cook. I like vegetable curries. I like with beans. Spanish food is great for that, as you know. So yeah, I don't have one thing I like more than another.
Wow. Tell me what is on your bedside table.
About 10 books that I'm trying to get through. About 10 books.
Oh, mine, it's the same, 10, 20, it's like this one.
Yeah, and I usually have about 3 books going at the same time. And so that's on my bedside table. And it becomes a bit of a joke, really, how many books that I have. But I'm also rereading a children's book, which is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I'm rereading that one again because I read it the first time around in school with children, and I thought I want to read this for myself. So that's one of them. And the other one is The Tree, which is an amazing book about the history of a tree round families. Each chapter is a different one. So yeah, that's 2 I could mention.
Wow, I will take notes about that books. Sounds very nice. Tell me a moment that you remember when you were really happy.
Oh, the birth of my daughter and my son. Wow. Without a doubt. I love being a mum, and I'm soon going to be a grandmother, and I love it. I just love all the interactions I've had with my children, and I still continue to. And that's why I really love working with children as well. I mean, there's a big similarity, really, but it's that investigation, exploration. And when a child gets that wow moment when they've got it, oh my gosh, that's just the most wonderful thing.
Wow. What are you really grateful for right now?
I think I'm really grateful that I have some degree of good health. you know, I have issues with my health, and I'm grateful that I can do a lot more than most people can do. And I work at it each day, keep sustaining, keeping good health. But ultimately that, and also the great relationships I have with friends, because without that support network, it goes right back to resilience. I wouldn't have coped with many of the situations that I've had.
Perfect. Okay, what is your purpose for this 2022? Or now that we are celebrating the Chinese New Year, what is your real purpose for this 2022?
I think it's to continue with my metamorphosis, and we've kind of touched on this in many ways about the change, because last year I really didn't have my sense of direction, and doing a lot of work with points of view, I've found my sense of direction to some degree. So I'm a lot happier. It was a lot of investigating what I wanted to leave behind and what I wanted to invite. So that is my purpose, to continue on my pathway and enjoy the process of getting to know myself a lot better than I did before.
Great. Okay, I ask you for 5 special songs, those which touch your soul, and also 3 books which also touch your soul. The songs are Photograph from Ringo Starr, Brown Eyed Girl from Van Morrison, Wonderwall, Oasis, What a Wonderful World from Louis Armstrong, and Color Esperanza. That surprised me, Diego Torres, a very nice song.
Yeah.
And the books are Lord of the Rings, as you told, 7 Years on Tibet from Heinrich Harrer, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Stieg Larsson. In one sentence, this is very typical points of view methodology. In one sentence, what do they say about you, about Yvonne Dalorto?
That I don't have one view about anything. I think all of these show that I have a multifaceted approach to people and also situations. I haven't got a narrow view.
Wow, that's amazing. That's very good, very, very good. I like it. Well, Yvonne, now we have time. If someone who is on the Zoom want to ask you or ask us, they can do it. You can open your microphones and ask something or just say hi, and that's it. We have few minutes. I don't know if I did the wrong thing in all. The last time I didn't open on the Facebook, and I think I said the same because nobody is here, just you and me. So, but it doesn't matter. We are going to publish once we finish.
Well, I can see there's my very good friend Elaine Matthias. And when we talk about resilience, this is one person that I would give 150, 190%, whatever percentage, in having seen how you go through a process and then you look back and you think, wow, how did I do that? So resilience is a strange thing. But as I mentioned, that coping mechanism wouldn't be there unless you had people around you as well to help and support you. So I am forever grateful for my friend Lane, who's there, and her husband, who got me through the worst part. And it's one you feel you can reciprocate, one you know you can recognize. Isn't that true, Lane Matthias?
It's very true, Yvonne Dalorto, very true. And I think when you were talking about that, what came into my head is that old quote, you never know how strong someone is, or a woman is like a tea bag. You don't know how strong she is until she's put in hot water. And you were thrown into hot water and you had to deal with the situation. And looking back, it was a nightmare at the time. Obviously, it was a nightmare. But resilience was what got you through, and you had to dig deep and find that.
Yeah, and I think that's it, dig deep.
And even now I'm astounded of how it played out and how you did it.
I mean, when I mean, Lane, when I think about this, the physicalness, it was it was 4 hours traveling each day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, to get to the hospital to see my husband. And that physically was awful. And then you had to go in and be, ta-da, you know, I'm fine, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And you wonder how you get through that.
Yeah, and I always remember, I don't know if it was Alex or Horatio saying that you went in every day with a smile on your face so that he didn't have to worry. So not only were you resilient for yourself, but you were taking his burden as well, or as much as you could.
Yeah, and that was important. That was hugely important for me, looking back, that he didn't have to worry about me driving home. It was the worst journey ever up that mountain road. And I mean, it literally was horrendous. And somehow he did. But you know what? It's as we say about resilience, you don't know how you do it.
No.
I mean, and you just do it. You just get on and do it. And you look back, and I'm sure that, you know, Lane said she has learned from that. We all learned from it. We all learned from it. And this is what resilience is. At the time, you think you're coping, and you look back and you think, I don't know how I did it. And you did. And this is something you wish to pass on to other people, that in your darkest moments, you wonder, how am I going to get through it? And somehow you do. Somehow you do. It's an amazing
and I think it's probably good that you don't know what's coming, because if you did, that would impact horribly on somebody if they knew what they were going to have to do in the future. So it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Right.
But we've learned a lot, haven't we?
I hope so.
Yeah, we learned a lot. Yeah.
And we're continuing to learn. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think we always we continue learning. We never stop learning, and we have to cultivate it, because if not, we are going back. Like, so we have to, like going to a gym, we have to continue working on that and learning. Okay, thank you, Catherine. You want to say something? Hello,
yes,
welcome.
I think your heart's still open, so you can receive the light.
Yes.
So,
but you know, it's looking back, it was a terrible time, but it was inevitable. But the one thing I would say is that I can recognize elements of it in people. If somebody says to you, this is happening, you can recognize elements and you interact with them differently. You know, it's having that now. That's what I say about a metamorphosis, about being more open. As you say, you are more open, you're more willing to change. Yeah. So it has been it's been a complicated, but as we said right at the beginning, I've learned a lot. You learn a lot about yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, someone else say something, ask something.
Well, I'm going to ask you.
You ask me, okay.
About resilience. How do you recognize moments that you have been through that you can say, I am a resilient person?
Well, this morning I was reflection on that, thing, because it's what you said. When you go back, it's when you see, oh, I'm here. Even in the tough time, I'm here, and I could manage everything. So I'm a resilient person, and that's why I recognize it. But it's tough when you are in the dark, because you are lost. And one thing that I learned is that you have to cultivate your values in order to work with your resilience. When you are lost, you have to go to that values. You have to like values, like, for example, for me, the gratitude is one of the biggest values. And I learned it when I go through a tough time, and I learned it, and now it's one of the things. And when I do something that it's not on that value, like some behavior that I have, I just go back and I say, okay, I'm going to think about what I have, for example, or what I'm grateful for today. And that's why I'm coming back. So I think it's important, in order to be resilient, cultivate the values that empower the resilient, the superpower of life.
Resilience is a big topic, and I think it's nice that we've been able to make it a person. The things I've said, everybody has had some experience in one way or another. So maybe it's something that makes us unique, but equally it's something we recognize in people and we can empathize with. So yeah, big
And
word
just,
with many.
and just one thing about what Irma said in the last topic, on the topic that she talked about, the words, how important it's the way we talk to ourselves. Because I remember when we, well, for example, the people who was in the Second World and they survived, and it's because they have a purpose probably, but they also, they talk to themselves in a positive way. And I think that's very important in order to cultivate the resilience also.
Yeah, I think also being kind on yourself, because it can tend to be a bit hard, especially when other people have expectations about you. And, you know, it's hard sometimes to measure yourself on other people's expectations, and that could be hard. But I do think you have to be kind on yourself, and being positive is something, again, I've learned about how to deal with finding the real you. It's not looking for criticism all the time, not criticizing yourself. But yeah, it's a process. And I think it's one that I'm embracing more easily as I'm making that change from, you know, fighting to get things done and working in a chaotic atmosphere where it's just boom, 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 and saying, no, I've got to step back and think about my mental health, my physical health, and being kind to myself.
Right. It's something about the self-compassion that we have to cultivate, because we have to treat us better, because I think we don't treat us very well sometimes. So we have to cultivate it in order to cultivate the superpower on that. Well, Yvonne, it was a pleasure to be here. It was a very nice talk, a very important topic. And thank you to our guests, Irma, Catherine, and Lane, and everybody in Facebook, if there's someone. Well, this is a space that I invite people to share topics with the soul, that they feel it. And I am open to everybody who wants to share something special. And remember, on Saturday, we have a date with Yvonne. If we want to go into this Shinrin, I don't know if I pronounce Shinrin Juku, the forest bathing, the forest bath. And I hope to see you there. And it's amazing. So thank you, Yvonne. It was a nice talk. I hope you just spend a good time, and everybody also.
Oh, of course, and thank you, everybody, in Madeleine and Catherine, who I can see. I don't know anyone else I can't see, but yeah. But it's also, on a final note, is think about to take the step forward is to recognize and say, how did I do that? I'm proud of myself. I got myself through something, and it can be mega or micro, but give yourself a pat on the back and just say, right, anything else that comes along, I can deal with it a little bit better. And I think that's one of the things we learn. So don't be hard on yourself. And resilience comes in many words. Just find your superpower.
Thank you. Well, we'll keep in touch. I will say the next guest for the next weeks. And thank you again for your time and for sharing this moment. This space is for inspiration and to build a safe space and recognize that we are a human, a very authentic human being. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Hola. Hasta luego.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Irma.
Good evening.
Good evening. See you soon. Nos vemos pronto. Okay.
Yes, that was lovely.
Yes, you think, just let me think. I didn't, just 1 second, because I didn't tape it. But I'm going.
We're still live.
Yes, let me see. Okay. And I'm going to finish here. And I'm going to finish here. I'm going to finish here.